Did you know that you don't always have to wait until the new year to start a new goal? Now, there is something magical around New Year, New Me, going to a different quarter, starting a goal, or even around a holiday season in the springtime, or even that last year push, to get the goals done. It really starts in your mind. And I'm going to share 5 ways to help you jumpstart your mind so you can be better prepared to jumpstart your goal no matter what the season is. So stay tuned and watch. Hi everyone, Dr. Vernita White. I go by Dr. V, and I am the brilliant life strategist and advisor for high achieving women in the professional space and the entrepreneurial space. I talked about you can start your goals at any point in time because it really starts in your mind. Now, this is going to be a series, and we're going to do part 1 today. But in case you're not going to stick around for the series or you just can't wait, here are the 5 things I'm going to share, and then I'll go into detail about the other ones. So, the first one that we're going to talk about today is having the courage to set your goals and talk about your goals. The next one is to be detail oriented about your goals. The next one is to have endurance about your goals. The fourth one is to be resilient. And then the one that could be controversial is to be perfect in your goals. So the first one, courage. What do I mean about courage as it relates to goal setting? Now, a lot of you are high performing, high level, high functioning, producing go-getters, right? And you've accomplished some goals. But have you accomplished the goals that you really, really want to go after? I'm talking about the ones that you write down in secret. I'm talking about the ones that you put on your vision board, but it really hasn't come true. Over the years, you probably put on your vision board like 5 years in a row. But it's the goal that if you're at a vision board party, you kind of wait to the end and put it on there, or you may put it at the bottom because you don't want people to really know about it. That's the goal I'm talking about. And the reason why you haven't achieved that goal is because you haven't had the courage to talk about it and to put it out there. And I know there are some things, we like to move in silence or keep things close to us because people can sabotage. And while that is true in some cases, the real person that you have to worry about sabotaging your goal is yourself. And you do that by not having the courage to write it down, talk about it with people who can support you. So the first step is to be courageous in actually talking about your goal. So the next part is to be honest. Now, that goes with being courageous about your goal and being honest about what you really want. Now, you've achieved a lot of things, and you probably did that because someone said it would be a good idea. You saw that it was the natural flow to do that. But the goal that you tucked away down that you really don't really want people to know is you have to be honest about if you really want that goal. Sometimes we make goals because it looks good, other people are doing it, and it's not always a bad thing to have a goal that someone else has, because if it inspired you, if someone's like, I have a goal to get a new car, and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that, I want a new car too. You can do that, but we're not getting goals, to one up people. We're not making goals to do that. And one reason that you're probably not achieving a goal is because you really don't want it. Maybe, a few years ago, it was something that matched well with you, but then you still haven't accomplished it. But subconsciously, you really didn't want to achieve it. It would have been a nice to have, or it's like, okay, I did it, but you didn't really want it. Or something in your life could have changed and it just no longer suits you, no longer fits you. So be honest about you either still wanting the goal, or not wanting the goal, and having the courage to finally scratch it off the list. So I did mention this, but I'm going to re-emphasize this. So this is still numbers 1 and 2, especially for my high achievers, my overthinkers. Again, talk about the goal. We can talk about the career advancements that we've made. We can talk about, the social status that we've accomplished or achieved. We can talk about new recipes, new books that we've written. I mean, not everyone, but I'm just giving out a list of people I can think about that they're open to talk about, but they're not open to talk about other things. You may have a goal to want to get a particular car or buy a certain house or speak another language, but if it doesn't fit within the mold of what people expect of you, you may not have the courage to talk about it. So don't overthink your goal. If it comes up as a desire, that means it's probably meant for you to do. So talk about it so you can get comfortable in your own body. So once you get comfortable talking about it for yourself, then other people will start, well, they may not get comfortable hearing about it, but the right people will. So start talking about it and having the courage to do it without overthinking or overanalyze. Now, number 3, this goes similar to number 2, but be able to trust people. And I know it's like, well, I do trust people. No, you don't. Not if you're keeping a certain goal secret. So I'll share mine. One of my goals is to become a New York Times bestselling author, right? And I said it before, like in maybe early 2018 or 2019, even though the idea crossed my mind like years before that. And then I casually mentioned it again in like 2020 when I was writing my second book. But I didn't really put it out there, because I was like, well, I didn't want people to judge me or say, well, who do you think you are? And not that anyone would say that to my face, but like when you start sharing with people and they kind of like look at you like, are you sure? You get that vibe. But there were a lot of people when I finally did steps 1 and 2, being honest about what I wanted and having the courage to talk about it. So many people have started supporting me and saying, oh my gosh, yes, okay, I can totally see that. Or yes, go for it. And then they even check on me like, hey, have you been writing? Have you been doing what you're supposed to do? And then trusting people that they want to support me. Now, does everybody support? Absolutely not. But we're not going to focus on those. We're going to focus on the people that are actually supporting us. And when I say trust, I'm not saying that you hand over your goal to them or you give them all the details, because those are for you. But just saying that out loud and having someone to support and hold that space for you, that is a huge deal. And know that you are worthy of the support and the trust of other people. So they can't support you if you don't trust them enough to even share what you want to accomplish, right? And that is something to start working on in your mind. And the reason why I say that, because you probably had some goals before where people doubted you and you were like, I'm going to show you anyway, and you accomplish it. I love that energy. Sometimes that energy is necessary, but we don't always want that energy of, I'm going to prove you wrong, right? So being able to trust people and having a goal from that space that I'm already supported, that's just a different type of energy that we can flow into, and it starts in the mind. So that's number 3. Trust people with your goals. Okay. So this is number 4. This ties into number 3 as well. See how they're building upon each other? So the next part is to know that you're worthy of support. And I said that in part 3 about trusting people, but when you trust them to support you, right? And you're worthy of the support, and know that people actually do want to support you. I believe that God created the universe to support the desires that he gave you in your heart. An example for me, New York Times bestseller. That wasn't something I grew up thinking about. It was literally dropped in my spirit, years ago. And then when I started really tuning into myself and tapping into myself and really being with myself and saying, what do I really desire? And I believe all desires come from God. Then I was like, okay, God, if that's what you gave me, then obviously somewhere you've already created the mechanism for me to get there. Now I still have to show up for it, but it means it's there. And this is how I know that we're already supported, or you're already supported, regardless of the desire. You may not have the desire to be a New York Times bestselling author. If it was for everyone would have that desire. So even though there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of New York Times bestselling authors, there are 8 billion people on the planet, right? So everyone doesn't have the same exact desires that you have, and there's enough support for everyone, regardless of your desire. And this is also how I know that desires are specific for you. You may have something that is totally off the radar, something that you didn't go to school for, something that wasn't in your family or in your immediate circle of influence, and you're like, well, where did this come from? That is a desire from God. You could say the universe, but I'm going to say God, and he's already created the support for you. But in order for you to acknowledge his support, I believe his support is also through other people. So know that you're worthy of the support, of course, from God and the universe, but from other people, because when he created your desire, he created the other people around you to support you. So have the courage to ask for support and know that you're worthy of the support. So number 5 is to have the courage to do the work, even if you've never done it before. I know a lot of times that it's high achievers, overthinkers, ambitious women and ambitious people, we go for things that we know that we can accomplish. It may be like a stretch, but we know we can do it. I'll give you an example. I got my PhD, and for some people, it's like, oh my God, it took me forever. It took me 3 years to get my PhD. And while it was a stretch, I've done school all my life. So it wasn't that it was so far out of my realm or my zone of influence or my zone of excellence or genius for me to get a PhD, to earn a PhD, because it was just like school for me. Now, for some people, it could have been like, oh my gosh, but it wasn't like that for me. Now, doing the New York Times bestseller, like going after like a book deal versus writing a book, that is something like, whoa, because I've written 2 books. When I was a college professor, I was already writing articles to be published, and I knew that I could write academic books, but not in the realm of I can write something outside of academia and then get paid for it. And then that could be what hits the New York Times bestseller. That is like out here versus right here. And I know it could be like, well, you've written a book, but I've never written a book proposal in this way before, and it was challenging for me, but it was outside of my comfort zone. But I had the courage to take the first step. And I'm gonna tell you this secret too of why it's important for you to still do things even if you've never done it before. My first thought when I was like, okay, I do want to go into the space of getting a book deal, I was going to use my second book. And I was just going to fit it into how a proposal is supposed to be set up, because that was comfortable for me. Even though I've never done it before, but I was trying to rely on something in my comfort zone. Then God was like, no, ma'am, that is not what we're doing. I want something totally new and fresh. So I was like, okay, now I really got to do this, have the courage to really step out. So I just want to say that I do understand everything that I'm talking to you about. So that is the first part of doing your goal setting and jump starting, because it starts in your mind. You can have the vision board parties, you can have, it up on the wall in your planners, you can have your pretty planners and all of those things, but your goals are not going to happen if you don't jump start your mind. So that was video number 1, tip number 1 to just having courage around all things goal setting. Okay, so remember, this is a series. We have 4 more to go, and I can't wait for you to go with me on this journey. Let me know down below what sparked you in this conversation, what takeaway that you have, what tip resonated with you, and if you're still struggling with having the courage to jumpstart a goal, 2 things I would love for you to do outside of always liking, commenting, and sharing and subscribing. But I would also, if you want, you can book a strategy call with me, and it's a power session. You can see like examples here on my YouTube channel, or you can start and get my complimentary life class or free life class, however you want to say it, True Brilliance, and that information will be down below. All right. So thank you so much for listening and learning with me. And remember to be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye. Dear game changer, life changer, mover and shaker, you have the positions, titles, degrees, and status. You've done all the things, and you've done pretty well for yourself. You're already good. You're already great. Now it's time to be phenomenal. Are you ready to design a bigger life than you can imagine? Are you ready to embrace a new, better side of yourself? Are you ready to expand what's impossible and live bolder? Well, it's time to activate your untapped superpowers. It's time to cultivate what's already inside of you, and it's time to elevate your potential and possibilities. Welcome to the School of Brilliance with Dr. V, a high-end advice company specializing in life transformation for the powerful professional, the elite entrepreneur, and the overall high achiever. We help you create dynamic and custom life plans, business curriculum, or a combination of both to help you expand and dominate every area of your life. Dr. V's mission is to help you embrace your brilliance and expand your life by operating in your true identity. Learn the best ways to work with Dr. V and her brilliant team by visiting drvernitaglenwhite.com/workwithme, or check the description and show notes below.